looking at Road Rash on the Sega Mega Drive. I've played this once before on the channel, but I kind of wanted to actually make some progress over this time. Unlock the newer bikes, longer tracks, that kind of stuff. So we'll see how far we get with this, because I'm kind of looking forward to this. Okay, let's get on with this. We'll start with Nevada. I have played this once before on the channel, but I figured, what the hell, it was an enjoyable ride last time. Had a few issues today with the old Mega Drive with the video cable. I'm not quite sure what was going on. It looked like to me like the power cable was causing some interference or something, which is odd. I might be wrong. I'm not really sure, but I figured this was a good time to go back through the pantheon of EA games, given the news recently that they've closed down Visceral Games, I believe it's called, pronouncing that correctly, which is quite a sad little thing, really, considering they you know, I mean, I've only played a couple of their games, but they were pretty decent. From what I read, Battlefield, was it Hardline, was okay, wasn't massively successful, but the Dead Space games were really, really good. They were, when they came out back in, was it 2007, 2008? They were very, very, to me they were like an extension of like Resident Evil, but in actuality, oh god, probably better, hey, look at that, probably better than Resident Evil to some degree at the time, because it was pure horror with a mix of action. Unfortunately, as those games continued on, they diluted the experience to the point where, although I haven't actually ever finished Dead Space 3, I played a bit of it, and there were some interesting ideas. The co-op function wasn't as bad as everyone makes it out to be. I do remember a situation where I was playing with my brother, and he was seeing something that I wasn't seeing, which was kind of interesting. But I've never actually played 1, which is probably the best one to play, but I've played a lot of 2 on it was on my 360, and yeah, that was a quality game. I distinctly remember there was a couple of moments in Dead Space 2 that were really quite like horrifically like messed up. Like there was the bit where you go to like, I think it's like a cathedral or something. It's early point of the game, and these like, I don't know what they are, like babies with like spiny long arms. Then they just, when you got right to the altar, they all came at you from behind, and it was really messed up. And then the other bit, which is to this day has always bugged me, it's always just generally really iffy and creepy, is the I don't know, they're like, I can only describe them as alien type things, but that behave like velociraptors in Jurassic Park. I hate them. I'm not going to swear, I'm trying not to. But there was a part in it where you encountered them in like there's loads of like big cargo like boxes type things, and they just charge. It was horrible. I got past it eventually, but it took a few hours because I kept getting killed by the damn thing. So it's a shame to see that. I mean, you know, a lot of people now, there's a lot of companies that are viewed as evil entities. EA, Activision, Capcom to some degree, although they've turned things around in the last couple of years, with microtransactions and loot boxes and crap, you know, like that, which, you know, someone's prepared to pay for it. So, you know, it's not really, it's an issue. It's not, you know, I don't know if it's as big as everyone makes it out to be. I mean, Shadow of War, which I went away for a week down to see a friend in Glasgow, Dumbarton area, and they were hyped for Shadow of War. That's what they were like, waiting for. Literally the night, I think my first or second night I stayed there. I was there for about a week. They were just sat there on their computers, on their laptops, waiting for Shadow of War to drop, and then it was just bang, Shadow of War for the next for the next 6-7 days. And that had loads of microtransactions in it. There was it would flicker up saying, "Oh, do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy that?" But I don't know if I'd say it was intrusive. It was there on the menus. It was even highlighted, but it wasn't like I remember quite a bad experience. The game itself was good with and I'll try not to go off on a tangent, but with Uplay, when I was playing Far Cry 3, I paused the game to do something, and I couldn't get back into the game for about, must have been maybe 50 seconds, because Uplay put up some type of, it was intrusive, it was definitely some type of advert, but I couldn't actually get back into the game. All I did was pause the game, and this was playing through the Uplay client, which I don't know what Uplay's like now. I've only ever used it for Far Cry 3. It's the only game I've ever played on it with a PC, so I wasn't impressed. The game itself was fantastic. It was Far Cry 3. It was really, really good, but I found that really intrusive. So for all the bitching about microtransactions and all this, and yeah, it's shitty. It definitely is. It's not something I would ever. It's the same with the season passes. I will not buy a season pass because I don't know what I'm getting. It's like giving money away and not knowing what you're going to get. If I knew what was in it, then fair enough, but they don't tell you a lot of the time, these companies. So you don't know if it's oh god, no! Hell. If it's value or not, so. But it was, that was really intrusive, but I haven't found Shadow of War in the time. I played it on PS4, standard PS4. I had no real issues with it, to be honest. It was a decent game. I will admit, I'm not really one. I played Shadow of Mordor and I enjoyed it, but I mean my mates, it was my mate and his cousin. They played. They're like hardcore. Like they'll play it for 7 hours straight. It was just. And it's like, the completion. So there's a lot of bleeding cars on this track. Completion rating, which is just like 100%. I mean, hell, I did Shadow of Mordor and I did it up to about 54%. I tend to find them type of games to be too grindy for my liking. I like them, but can't really be arsed with a lot of time. I've got, Oh no! How in the hell did I get away with that? If that had hit me, the cop would have stopped and busted me automatically. So that was lucky. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Shadow War, it's a good game. It is a very, very good game if you're into the grind, because it is a long old game. And from what I've read, the last point of the game, they make it even more grindy. Apparently, you have to grind for a hell of a lot of time to do the final mission or something. So I'm not really one for completion type things. Play the story, but I get a bit bored. I think it's too much choice, to be honest, nowadays. So yeah, the EA, are they evil? I don't know if they're evil. Some of the sort of microtransactions that are pretty, they're pretty I don't know what the word is to use. They're not. I don't know if ethical is the word to use either, but they're not very consumer friendly. Let's just use that word, consumer friendly. But there are people out there that will pay for it, and they're quite happy to. So I guess choice maybe it is right. I don't know. I just figured playing a bit of this would it takes you back to the days when you bought a product. That was the product, I do like the idea of like DLC you've got nowadays. That's a nice choice and stuff. But in the last couple of years I've realised as I'm getting older I'm being drawn more to more casual stuff. I mean I'm playing a lot of World of Warships, War Thunder, and son of a bitch. I will admit I've spent a little bit of money on War Thunder, just grinding to that next plane and stuff, because when you do it normally it takes ages, and it can get a bit frustrating sometimes, but on the other hand it can also be quite, oh no, god, that was close, it can also be worth it. It just sort of depends really. The Warships is good. Unfortunately I'm shy at it. Oh, what? No, come on. Oh man, was that 3 of us taken out? It was. So there's that, I mean, it's I'm going to call this the rambling episode, I think. I just need to get good at World of Warships now. That's the only thing. Because I'm pretty crap at it, to be honest. And also, I don't know if anyone knows, but as of, whatever, I think the date is the 7th today, I'm not even sure. StarCraft 2 is free to play. I believe that's the first one, Wings of Liberty. And I imagine the rest will go free to play eventually. StarCraft's a really, really sort of good game. Bloody hard though. If you're going to play it on multiplayer, I suggest you play the amateur stuff first, because I made the mistake of thinking, no, I don't need the amateur stuff, I can just jump on and I'll learn that. No, not a chance. It's uber competitive. It's on the levels of things like, I would imagine, things like Counter-Strike. And probably, what's the big, Overwatch, I think that's another BattleNet one. I think this was the first ever EA game I ever actually played. As I've probably said this in previous videos, but last time I actually had I didn't get a Mega Drive till late in its lifespan. I mean, really like Sega Saturn sort of time period. I think it was like 95, anywhere between 94 and 96. Which makes me feel uber old, to be honest. The one thing I've noticed about this game is, as you finish doing more of the tracks, you unlock better bikes. But the one caveat about this game is that the tracks are extended, so it's basically the same sort of idea they do with Mario Kart, where they sort of extend the track. Well, they reverse the tracks a lot of the time. That's one of the reasons why you can only play so much of this, because the tracks are the same. The soundtracks, I would say, is quality. Although it is a bit off-putting actually playing it on. I'm playing it on a Panasonic TV, and to be honest with you, the signal. I think the output of the Mega Drive is something like 240p. So I think most basic YouTube videos are. Output is generally higher. But we're sort of entering a different era now with consoles. They're almost PCs at this point. I mean, it used to be every 5, 6. The last generation was like 8 years, which is usually unheard of. But I mean, now you've got these iterations like the PS4 Pro. You got your slimmed down Xbox, and now you've got this Xbox X, which is apparently a 4K system, but from everything I've read, and I do tend to sort of watch a lot and read a lot about PC hardware, because I tend to find it kind of interesting. Some of it I don't understand, mind you, but I get most of the basics I understand. But like this new one is apparently it'll render games at 4K. From everything I've read about PC hardware, if your processor can't keep up with the GPU, it will bottleneck the system. You won't get the performance that the graphics chip can actually do. And from what I've read about it, I think the base Xbox One, I believe, runs at something like 1.7 gigahertz. So apparently it's an 8-core processor called the Jaguar. Now, I imagine that's based on older hardware like the FX process, which I've currently got on my computer. So there's a lot of, it's an interesting idea, but 450 quid in the UK. Oh no! Oh god, that was close. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I imagine the games will probably run at 4K, or there'll be some special. I think there's a thing they call checkerboarding or something. I can't remember that. There's some technical term where they can get games to that 4K. I don't personally care about 4K. I'd like to get a 4K TV at some point, yeah, but currently I play it 1080p. So for me, I mean, it's a pipe dream. Unless I'm prepared to invest over, I think you're talking, what, 700 quid, I think, on a... it's over £600 to £700 for a 1080 Ti, and you're between 450 to up to about 500 plus for a GTX 1080. And I mean, they'll render it, they'll do a lot of games at 4K. But do you really need that kind of processing power? Or my bad. I'm still running an old 970, and I want to upgrade to a... Well, I was going to upgrade to a 1070, but I'm not really sure now, because Nvidia have recently just responded to AMD's Vega line, and now the 1070 is actually faster. TI, sorry, is faster in a lot of the benchmarks. DirectX 11. 12's a funny one. AMD seem to have... I don't know if they've invested more in the tech for DirectX 12, but the Vega GPUs are interesting. And I mean, power consumption is an issue, though. Well, I don't know if it's an issue, but it's probably is drawing, I think it's 125, I believe. So yeah, as I said, consoles and PCs, they're basically the same thing at this point. So you're looking at... I suppose it depends on the convenience factor, whether you want to build a PC or if you want to actually just get the box all sorted. I mean, there's still a market for consoles. The Steam machines failed hard from everything I read. And I've had an Xbox One, I've got a PS4 currently. To be honest, it's an okay little system for most games. It's quite frankly, for me, majority of the time it's used as a media player or a Netflix box, just because it's that much quieter than my PC, because it hasn't got the amount of fans running and stuff. But when you've got headphones on it, I suppose that's not really an issue. So, I'd love to know what the frame rate of this particular game is running at. It's got to be quite low, I'd imagine. But I also think, as a tech enthusiast, like, I enjoy this stuff. I enjoy all that kind of stuff. But I'm in a more realistic sort of situation. You know, it takes me weeks and weeks sometimes to afford stuff. You know, I only do 21 to about 26 hours a week of work. So, you know, usual thing, eBay, sell things, that kind of thing. So I'm not on the cutting edge, wish I was, but so it makes it some more worth it when you've oh no! Oh, you prick! And there goes my bike. Prick! Could you run any slower? Come on, man! I only really discovered PC gaming about 2008, 2009. And I've never really looked. Never really looked back since. Really, I've still enjoy your consoles and stuff, but the exclusives are few and far between now when it comes to consoles. Whereas in the old days, you were limited by choice. There wasn't as much. Well, I wouldn't say there wasn't as much out there, but that's terrible. Your choice of what games you could buy were limited compared to now. Now, I've got to do that race again. Damn it, didn't qualify. You've got too much choice now. I mean, you're talking 30, 40. About 30, 40 games I've got on my Steam list, and it's not me bragging, that's just the fact that Steam sales, other kinds of sales, you know, any kind of stuff. I mean, there's just so much out there now, and it's either you just don't play it, or you just can't be asked to play it, because you've just not you know, I've gone from a list of thinking, oh, I don't want to play that. I don't like. I've got like 40 odd games there. It's I suppose it's too much choice. And in the old days, God, I feel old now. Like in the early 90s, if I wanted like say a Sega Mega Drive or a Sega Master System, was probably would be my early memories. You'd go to somewhere like Toys R Us or Ramsden's, all those kind of places. I think Game, but I think back then it was called. Oh God, what was it called? It wasn't called Game. It was called. I can't remember. It was called something else. Oh boy, I'm trying to remember now what it was actually called. So you didn't have as much. You didn't have as much choice, and games were expensive. I remember getting Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the Master System one, which was very, very different to the Mega Drive version. And it was $29, $39.99, something like that. So I used to go to places like Cash Converters, which to this day is still around. You know, that's where I used to get most of my games. I remember getting a lot of games from Cash Converters, and some of them were great, some were shit. Afterburner was pretty good. The one game people seem to love from Sega, which I can't stand, is Space Harrier. I thought this game was absolute crap when I played it. I thought this is one of the most now I look at it, I kind of understand it more, but I was only about 7 or 8 years old at the time, but I just thought it was crap. Golden Axe, the port for the Master System, which I don't know if it's the same port. I don't know if it was on Game Gear. I noticed Master System seemed to get a lot of ports from the Game Gear. I really wish I had sold my Mega Drive and I'm stuck. Get off me. Master System games, because they were really, really good. Although the box art on those old games were really bland. I don't know why they were so bland on Master System, because Mega Drive and Genesis were really good looking types of cases, but the Sega Master System ones were just, I don't know, it's just like something from, I can't really describe it. There's a game I really, really want a copy of on the, it's on PSN, I believe it's on Xbox, on PC, which is the Wonder Boy, the Dragon's Trap, although it was originally called Wonder Boy 3, the Dragon's Trap. I used to have that for the Master System, and it's one of those games where, like, I really, really want to actually play it again, because I haven't played it in many, many years. I never really got very far on it as a kid. It never really held my interest. But it was good fun. Sorry if you can hear my dogs barking. Okay, so we're going to level 2. Oh, it's Elvis. It looks like him. So. Bye bye. As you tend to find that, like, this game does tend to repeat the tracks a lot, so it can get a bit old. But I do think it does get more challenging as you continue on with it. So I like Red Rash 2 is possibly the better game. I've never played 3, so I don't know what they did with Road Rash 3. But 1 and 2, the soundtrack's really, really good. They never. I believe there's a few on the old PS1, but Road Rash never really went anywhere. They kind of just died on it. After it just died as a series, it just didn't come back. As obviously I said, they did say I wouldn't go on a tangent, but like the closure of like Visceral Games, you look at so many companies EA has absorbed, and they're not in business anymore, which is quite sad, really, when you think about it. The ones that come to mind. I don't know if Criterion are around anymore, the company behind Burnout. Maxis Games, although I'm not really a huge fan, I've never really a huge fan of SimCity. I picked that up when it came out many, many years back, and at the time they were having like serious like server issues with the game. They couldn't actually access the game. It was just completely broken, and it was online only. Yet they were claiming you couldn't play it offline. They soon redacted that statement when someone somehow modded the game and was able to the code or something to play it offline. So Maxis, that's another one. Westwood Studios, which was people that helmed Command and Conquer, they disappeared. I just don't know. I don't know what EA. Oh, hell, I don't really know what EA's sort of what their concept is going forward, because the Battlefield series is successful. FIFA, sports in general, I suppose, is fairly successful. But there's nothing really that exciting coming out from EA. I mean, there's what was it called? Anthem, I believe, which I don't personally play. He's out of it. I don't personally play Destiny, sorry. Oh no, wait a minute. No, Dishonored is Activision. Dishonored is Activision, isn't it? Basically, they want their own Destiny, and it's. I don't know. I've only played the demo for it, so I haven't played many of those sort of games. I mean, I played The Division, which personally I thought was. It's okay when you're playing a team, I suppose. It's more interesting. But personally, I thought the game was bloody boring. It was just hide behind something, shoot, hide behind something. But that was because I was playing on my own. I suppose those kind of games can be a great deal of fun if you've got friends or relatives to play with and stuff. Picking up loot and new guns and, you know, but with the Division, I remember for the first time I played it, I was only playing single player though, so I can only speak from that. It just wasn't that fun and interesting, and the world was... it was devoid of anything. It had no, it was supposed to be a world that had sort of undergone some sort of terrifying, apocalypse, and to me it just there was nothing there. I mean, I haven't played it since, and I won't play it since. But from what I've read, it's improved in leaps and bounds and stuff. I remember when I played it, I sometimes started falling through the streets and stuff. I tried to go into a building and I fell through the floor. But that was back when it had first come out, so there was a lot of teething issues back then. But again, I keep going on tangents. Anthem is Destiny, basically. EA want something they can invest in for many, many years, which, fair enough to them. You look at companies like Blizzard with World of Warcraft. Look how long that's been going on. Many, many years that's been going on. And it's... oh, no, 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 no! God damn it. It's not my cup of tea, but there are people that like it. So, more power to them, I suppose. I think as gamers we tend to forget that they're a business at the end of the day. They have to make money, even if their business practices are pretty shitty. There was the previous generation, 360, PlayStation and Wii. This more applies to 360 and PlayStation. They introduced that concept where if you bought a used game you couldn't play it online. They got rid of that later in that generation, or near the end of it, but at the time they had this idea where you'd have to pay a small fee to have access to like an online subscription or something, so you could actually play. Say you bought a copy of Call of Duty 4, well, you had like a code. I don't know if it applies to Call of Duty as such, but from what I remember, there was a code you needed to actually access the online features of the game, even though you obviously at that point you weren't paying for PSN like you are now and stuff. So this is what they always test out, these shitty practices, just to see, hey, bye bye, what will piss the consumer off massively and what will only just, what will annoy him, but he or she will still invest in whatever that game is. kicked me off then. I'd really, really like to see a modern remake of this. I tend to find as you get older that stuff that you played... Oh god, no! Oh, that was close. Stuff that you played as a child and stuff becomes like really like nostalgic to a fault sometimes. When I play these old things, I keep trying to, I don't know, find that, what's the word, looking for something, to feel something that I used to feel maybe in the past, which isn't really how it works, even though it takes you to that place. It's just a weird sort of sense, I suppose. These cars are out to get me, I swear. And of course, these old games don't have save states, so you've probably seen on the video, but it's got a password system. Input the password and you're basically on your way. There's such a jump though between the 16-bit and the, oh, nearly clipped me, the 32-bit and the 64-bit, I suppose. I really wish I had more of an appreciation for the early Nintendo stuff, but at the time I'd never really played it. So if you hear that, that's one of my dogs barking. It's a full-time job. Looking after that a lot. That's why I don't do this as often, because I just don't have time a lot. Currently, well, 7 dogs currently, which is mental. And keeping the bleeders clean is almost impossible. Bye bye. Oh, nah, that clipped him. Come off it. Oh god, I can't see anything. Blue car. Oh, you're 1/5. I need 4 for 3rd, I think, to actually qualify. I don't think I'm going to do it. Oh look, it's another cop. Get out of my way, get out of my face, fool. Definitely America. Cops in this country don't look that cool.